Here's what I know to be true. The business owners who grow the fastest aren't the ones who work the hardest. They're the ones who stop doing it alone. I've said it before, but today I'm going to take you behind the scenes inside exactly what that looks like in the Outcome Academy Mastermind. Welcome to the Outcome Academy podcast. I am Ginny Seeley. I'm a business strategist and longtime process improvement expert, and I also co-own an appliance service business and a co-working space with my husband, Joe. So I understand what it looks like to juggle growth, leadership, family, and big dreams all at once. If you're a service-based entrepreneur or executive who wants to stop putting out fires and work on your business and build momentum with systems, smart marketing, and practical tech, you are in exactly the right place. You know that moment right before you make a decision you've been putting off for too long? Not a bad decision, not the wrong decision or anything, just a decision that requires you to finally say yes to yourself, to your business, to what you know you're capable of. That pause, that breath, that quiet knowing. That's where I want to start today. Because today's episode is going to be a little bit different. I've been doing this podcast for 10 episodes now. And in episode 9, I introduced you to the mountain metaphor. The idea that building a business is kind of like climbing a mountain. And in episode 10, we went deeper into what it actually looks like to understand where you are on that mountain, which camp you're in, and why it's so important to know that when your altitude changes, everything about your next move changes as well. Today, I want to take you inside something I'm super proud of. And I want to be honest with you that this episode is a little bit of a love letter to the work we do inside the Outcome Academy Mastermind, because I believe in it that much. This is not a pitch, but this is an invitation for you to listen and understand what is happening in this mastermind. And then you can decide for yourself if this is something you want to pursue. A pitch tries to convince you of something. An invitation opens the door, trusts that you know whether you're ready to walk through it, and that's it. So today, I'm going to walk you through that door. I'm going to show you exactly what happens inside the Outcome Academy Mastermind, the structure, the cadence, the work we do, and the transformation that actually occurs when you commit to climbing with a group of people who are doing the same thing. And by the same thing, I don't mean they have to have the exact same business as you. I have a mix of people in the mastermind groups. We've had bookkeepers, we've had shop owners, we have people that help people transition out of the home they've lived in for years and years and years and downsize. We have appliance businesses and all kinds of different service-based businesses. So, with all of that in mind, let's go. First of all, here's something I know to be true about most of the business owners who find their way to me. They're not struggling because they're not smart. They're exceptionally smart. They're innovative. They know their craft and they know it well. They're not struggling because they lack work ethic either. And they're not struggling because their business doesn't work. They're struggling because they're doing it alone. And that is a really tough place to be. And I'm not just saying that they're lonely. That's real too. But being in business by yourself is lonely. But I mean alone in the strategic sense. They're making decisions in a vacuum. They don't have anyone who actually understands the altitude they're operating at. They're surrounded by people who either haven't started a business or they're in a completely different stage of the climb. For example, if you're just starting your business and you have somebody counseling you who is at the point of exiting their business, they absolutely have wisdom. But I would compare it to a grandparent trying to say that they understand what it's like to get up all night long and nurse a baby. They might remember things about that, but they're not in it. They're not in it at the same time as you. And being a business owner right now while AI is emerging and gaining so much traction, is absolutely different from being a business owner when the Yellow Pages was out. So just take that little piece of wisdom there. Listen to the people that are super far ahead of you. Listen to them. Take their advice, just like you'd take the advice of a grandparent, but take it with a grain of salt. Because surrounding yourself with people in the same room with you who are at the same stage you're at or just slightly ahead of you, those are the people that are going to help you up the mountain at the altitude you're at right now. So that is talking about the business owners that you're surrounding yourselves with. But what about the friends? You know what I mean, right? You can't go to your friends who've never run a business and say, I'm trying to figure out whether to hire my first operations manager or keep running the systems myself. They don't have a reference point. They love you, but they really can't help you with that. They can give you a great big hug and encourage you and tell you you're awesome, but they're absolutely not going to help you solve that problem right there. And your fellow business owners, if you even have any in your close circle, might be at such different stages that their advice is like that grandparent advice I was talking about. It doesn't translate. So what ends up happening? You make your best guess, you learn a lot, you figure things out, but you spend so much time figuring things out from scratch that could have been solved in a 2-hour conversation with somebody who's already been there. And not only are you wasting your time, but you're reinventing the wheel and you're solving things that have already been solved a million times. When you're doing it alone, you don't have anyone holding you accountable to your own vision either. There's no one who remembers what you said you were going to do last month and asks you, with love, why you didn't do it. There's no one who can see your blind spots the way people who are in it with you can. That's the problem that the Outcome Academy Mastermind solves. Before I walk you through what happens inside the mastermind, I want to give you some context. Because the structure of the Outcome Academy Mastermind isn't arbitrary. It's super intentional. In episode 9, I introduced you to the mountain metaphor. Your business is a mountain. Your summit is your exit. Whatever that looks like for you. At every phase of that climb, there are different terrain, different challenges, and different skills required. In episode 10, we talked about the 4 camps on the mountain. Camp 1 is where you're starting. You're getting your business established, finding your first clients, figuring out your offer, learning what it actually takes to be in business. Camp 2 is where you're growing. You've proven your concept. Now you're trying to scale your business a little bit without burning yourself out. Camp 3 is where you're actually scaling. You're building systems, you're building teams, you're operating more like a CEO and less like a technician. And Camp 4, that's where you're preparing for the summit. You're working on exit strategies, succession, transition, legacy. Now, here's what the Outcome Academy Mastermind does with that framework. We don't mix all those camps together. This is actually something I'm super excited to share with you because we've just restructured the groups. And for the first time, we have clearly defined camp-specific groups. Camp 1 members climb with Camp 1 members. Camp 2 members climb with Camp 2 members. And you guessed it, right on up the mountain. Why does that matter? Because the problems you're solving at Camp 1 are completely different from the problems you're solving at Camp 2. If you're in Camp 1 and someone in your group is in Camp 3, their advice, as smart and experienced as they are, might actually lead you in the wrong direction. They're solving for delegation and systems, and you're solving for revenue and proof of concept. Different altitude, different oxygen, different tools. When you climb with people at the same altitude as you, the conversations are immediately deeply relevant. Everything that gets shared applies to you. Every question someone asks is probably a question you have too. Every breakthrough one person has is a breakthrough you can see yourself having. That is the core principle of the Outcome Academy Mastermind. The right people at the right altitude doing the real work together. Now, does that mean that you can never talk to somebody at a different altitude than you? Of course not. We'll have times when we mingle with each other. We might have a group experience during the year. We want to create connection. That is the whole point of the mastermind, is to connect with other people. But when you're grinding in your week-to-week mastermind meetings, you're going to be grinding with people just like you. Okay, so let's get practical. I want to walk you through the actual structure, what you can expect week to week, month to month, and quarter to quarter, because that is not just a group where we show up and have great conversations, although we do that too. There is a cadence, there is a curriculum, and there is accountability built into every single layer. All of this is outlined in outcomeacademy.com mastermind page that talks all about the whole thing. And sometimes that might change from time to time. We might grow it, improve it, but there's always going to be a page on our website about the mastermind. So I want you to feel really comfortable just popping over there and taking a look at the pictures that we have there and some of the touch points that might help you be able to follow along in this part of this episode. So first, the weekly rhythm. Every week, we have touch points with our group. This is where the accountability lives. This is where you share what you're working on, what you committed to, and what got in the way. It's not a reporting session. It's a conversation between people who are invested in each other's success. That weekly rhythm is what turns intentions into outcomes. It's really easy to set a goal. It's much harder to show up the following week in front of people who know and love you and tell them that you didn't do the thing that you said you were going to do. It's not about shame, it's structure. And structure and systems, as I've said so many times before, is what separates businesses that grow from the ones that stay exactly where they are. I think about Josh, my trainer. When I know I have a session with Josh on Friday, I'm not skipping Tuesday's workout because Josh is going to ask me how I felt after Tuesday's workout. Not because he's keeping score, but because he cares about my progress. That's exactly what the weekly touch point in the mastermind does for your business. You're going to say what you plan to do that week, and we try to keep it at 1 to 2 action items that move you towards working on your business, not in your business. So we're not going to say out loud, I'm going to do payroll this week. That's expected. When you're a business owner, you're expected to pay people that you employ. We're talking about moving things up the mountain, getting things done that move you further along your trek as a business owner and not the work that you're doing in your business. Then we have monthly deep dives. Every month, our group comes together for a focused, strategic working session. This is kind of the heart of the mastermind experience. Here's how it works. We use the 16 strategic business areas that form the backbone of the Outcome Academy methodology. Things like marketing, offers, sales operations, financial KPIs, team development, all of those things, the 16 areas. Every month, we go deep on one or more of those areas. But we don't go deep in a generic way. We go deep in relation to where your group is on that mountain. So, Camp 1 could be working on marketing and talking about how to identify their ideal client, how to get their first referrals, how to show up consistently without a big budget. And Camp 2, working on marketing, could be talking about systemizing their content, building a pipeline, potentially bringing on marketing help. Get it? Same category, completely different conversation because the altitude matters. The monthly session is also where we do our roundtable. This is one of my favorite parts of the mastermind experience. The roundtable is when the members of the group bring their real, live, messy business challenges to the table. They share it out loud, and they listen to feedback from everybody else's perspectives, everybody's experience, their ideas. The facilitator might pipe in and share some ideas as well. And then each person walks away feeling empowered about the thing they were struggling with. Not criticized, but empowered. People have come to that table with a problem they've been stuck on for months, and then they walk out with a clear path forward. It's really cool. At Cavalry, our appliance service business, Joe and I used to wrestle with decisions for weeks. We would talk them out with each other. We would go in circles. Then finally, we started to have the outside perspectives of other people that are in our mastermind circles. People who weren't emotionally attached to our history, our business. They could look at it with fresh eyes. And the decisions started to become a lot clearer. That's what a mastermind does. It gives you outside eyes on your inside problems. So each month, we have a different week dedicated to a different thing. Week 1 is always roundtable. Week 2 is always a business topic. It could be one of the 16 categories. It could be a new AI tool that just came out that we're going to dive into. It could be any one of those kind of things that move our businesses along. Week 3 is always going to be about some way that we are caring for ourselves personally or growing ourselves personally so that we make sure that we're not pouring from an empty cup. Week 4 is going to be when we do our monthly big topic focuses. So the first month of the quarter is when we do our quarterly business review. We reflect on all of the accomplishments from the last quarter. We present it to our actual mastermind group. And this has been one of the most transformative pieces in the feedback that I receive from members. This is what means the most to them. The chance to share out loud how far they've come in the last quarter, and then share their goals for the next quarter out loud to themselves and to their colleagues that are sitting at the table with them. The second month of the quarter, we have one-to-one coaching with your facilitator. So that gives you an opportunity to really drill down on a particular place that you're stuck. Most recently, I met with one of our members who was really having a hard time breaking down big goals into strategic small steps. And what I did was create a custom GPT just for that member. But guess what? Now everybody can benefit from that custom GPT because I'm sharing it in our custom GPT vault. So when people come for their one-on-one coaching, things can come out of that can help everybody that's in the mastermind across the board. The third month in the quarter is when we do our gigantic brain dump across all 16 areas with mindfulness about the camp that we're in and the things that we're trying to achieve in order to move to the next camp. I hope this is starting to make sense to you. It's very structured because you know my favorite quote by James Clear, "We do not rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems." So you don't have to worry about the system. I got you. I've built it into the mastermind. It's all baked in there and it's all set to help you succeed. All right. So I want to talk about the transformation piece because when people ask me, what am I going to actually get out of the mastermind? The truthful answer is not all the things that I just talked about with you. I'm a scientist. I've been a scientist for 25 years. I'm a process improvement expert. I'm a systems expert. So I really geek out on systems. But I'm telling you what, the biggest thing that you get out of this mastermind is that community, that support, and that transformation. You change. I don't mean some kind of vague personal development way. I mean, in a really, very concrete business strategic way, you're going to change. There are identity shifts as you move up the mountain. When you first are at base camp and you haven't even gotten to camp 1, you're thinking about possibly starting a business. You're imagining whether you even have what it takes to be a business owner. And then you might be even working for somebody else. You might be an electrician and you've been working for a company and maybe you just don't really align with their mission, vision, and values or how things are going. I've experienced technicians who really didn't fit in with the value structure because there were unethical things going on in a business. People leave who they're working for and start their own business for a multitude of reasons. And your reason is personal to you. But once you've changed and evolved from imagining about being a business owner and you've gone and started your business, that is a change in you that happened. You became confident enough to take that first step and start something. That is amazing. And it's something to be proud of. But there's so many different identity shifts that you will go through along the way of business ownership. The first one is going from that professional service provider for someone else to being an operator of a business. Then you're going to start moving from that operator, that professional person who the whole business depends solely on you, to being a manager and managing other people who are doing some of the work. And then in Camp 3, you start thinking like a CEO. You're building out your leadership team. You're managing other managers. And then finally, in Camp 4, when you're positioning yourself to sell and exit your business, whatever that looks like to you, you're transitioning into the mindset and the personality of being an investor. You're owning an asset. Your business at that point is an asset. You're not the only one. You're probably not even doing any of the actual delivery of the work in your business at that point. And this can happen over a period of 10 to 15 years. This is not something that happens overnight, but your exit, your summit in your mind can be something that you think is going to take 5 years or 20 years. Again, it's personal. But this transformation, this personal growth, this is how God created us. He created us to develop and grow and learn and become what He's intended for us to become. That's the transformation that happens in this mastermind. You surround yourself with other people who want to grow themselves, their business, personally. And when you surround yourself with other people like that, you can't help but improve yourself as well. It's just a natural consequence. And that is probably the coolest part of the whole thing. So I want to give you the specifics. And this episode is something people can come back to every quarter, because every quarter we enroll new people into new groups in the mastermind. And so right now, as I'm recording this, it's March, and we are enrolling for our Q2 mastermind in 2026. So over the next few weeks, I'm going to work with people who are enrolling. We're going to onboard them. We're going to make sure they learn all the ins and outs, all the language, all the tools we use to track all our goals, all of the brainstorming, everything. And by the time the onboarding's over, whether you elect to do one big full day of intense onboarding or whether you want to stretch it over a few weeks, you're going to be ready to jump into quarter 2 with a plan. So right now, we have a brand new Camp 1 group forming right now in person, right here in New Bern, North Carolina. We have about 8 spots in there. That's about enough for a Camp 1 group. We don't really want to keep any of our mastermind groups bigger than 6 to 8 people, because that is really the sweet spot for making sure that everybody has time in the roundtables, and it can be an intimate group that really gets to know each other. So we, for the first time, are opening up Camp 1, which is people who have just started their business, which is really cool because up until this point, we've really focused on people who are growing and scaling. But I feel like if we can get a Camp 1 group who is starting to start right with all the foundational elements in place, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to see where they go. Because that is what Joe and I did when we started Cavalry Appliance. We did Camp 1 things before we even ran our first service call. And that absolutely gave us a huge advantage. So I am super excited to equip the people in Camp 1 with all the strategies and tools they need to really get started in the right spot. 8 in-person spots, and that's it. Then that one's going to be closed. For Camp 2, we only have 2 spots left in the established in-person group here in New Bern, but I have good news for everybody. I'm going to be opening up Camp 1 and Camp 2 masterminds online. I only have room for 1 group of each. I want to make sure everybody gets all the attention they deserve. So that's it. Once they're full, and we will not revisit until next quarter. And we may not even open up any spots there depending on how these masterminds are going and the attention that they need. Because I tell you what, Once you're in and you're a student or a member in Outcome Academy, you are a VIP. All my members are VIPs. Every student is a VIP. Every course is a VIP experience. So once you're in, but those spots are definitely limited. So the very first thing we're going to do is understand the camp. So I want to make sure you've listened to episode 9 and 10, so you have a really good idea of what camp you're going to be in. And I want you to know this is your chance to stop doing this alone. I'm not saying the mastermind is the only way to get strategic support, but I am saying that doing it alone costs way more than you think in time, in energy, in decisions made without the right input. The question isn't whether you can figure it out by yourself. I know you can. You can get on YouTube and ChatGPT and wherever else you want to get your information. You can find out every answer to every question known to mankind. But the amount of time it takes and what it costs you in that process is a cost. And it costs way more than it costs to enroll and participate in a mastermind like this. I know what it feels like to listen to something, feel a real yes in your gut. If that has happened for you at any point in this episode about the camp structure, about the accountability, about the transformation that comes from climbing with the right people, act on it. Every mountain that has ever been summited was summited by someone who didn't make that climb alone. Even the great solo climbers, the ones who go up without a rope team, they had people who trained with them, who coached them, who prepared them. Nobody does that without a community. Your business is no different. The summit is possible. The climb is doable. But you don't have to do it by yourself. The Outcome Academy Mastermind isn't just a program. It's the people you climb with. It's the structure that keeps you moving when the weather turns. It's the cadence that makes sure you're always taking your next step, even when the path feels unclear. I'm forming these groups with so much intention, specifically designed for where you are, not just where you're going. And that distinction matters more than I can even explain in one episode. If you're a Camp One business owner, I want you in that new Bern room. If you're Camp 2 with Thursday evenings free, those 2 spots have your name on them. If you're anywhere in the country and you're ready to stop doing this alone, the online groups are forming and there is a place for you at that table. Go to outcomeacademy.com, learn more, or reach out to connect with me directly. You can reach me at Ginny@outcomeacademy.com. Thank you for spending time with me today. I never, ever take it lightly. This work matters to me deeply, and the fact that you're here listening, building, climbing, that means something to me. I'll see you in the next episode. Keep climbing. As you think about this week, notice where this shows up in your own business. If you want to go deeper into this work, including the mastermind and other ways we support service-based business owners, you can explore everything at outcomeacademy.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.